You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
This Wednesday at 1 p.m. in Annapolis, Maryland, a rally is being held to support equitable funding for Maryland's historically black colleges and universities. They are Bowie State University, Morgan State University, Coppin State University, and the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Joining me to talk about why this is so important is Delegate Darryl Barnes, chair of the Maryland Black Caucus. Thanks for joining us.
For having me.
Absolutely. So this is an issue that we've talked about a lot on this show. Where are we right now in terms of the struggle to make sure that Maryland's HBCUs are funded fairly?
Well, right now we're in a quagmire, if you will, where we have been underfunded for so long. This lawsuit has been going on now for a decade and a half, and our HBCUs in the state of Maryland have been underfunded, and that's why we have a call to action. A sense of an emergency to get the governor's attention, to let him know that we would not accept what they're offering, that the state has come and said that this lawsuit should be settled around $1 billion to $2 billion. The governor has said that we'll fund it at $200 million. Yeah. That's totally unacceptable. That's totally unacceptable for me and the Maryland Legislative Black Caucus. Thus, the reason why we're having the rally on Wednesday, November the 13th.
And when you think about, you talked about this difference between where where the judges have said you should be funded and where this governor has offered this complete underfunding. What makes him think he can get away with this? Is it just that he just believes that nothing's going to happen and you'll just fold?
Well, if the governor was sitting here with us right now, he would say that he has done more than his predecessor. He would say that he has funded our HBCUs at higher levels of funding. But I'm here to say that he has not. I would beg to differ. Looking at where we are right now in our HBCUs and our TWIs, we are not getting the adequate funding that we need. Our 4 HBCUs in the state of Maryland are hurting. Therefore, we need to do all that we can to try to settle this lawsuit and provide the adequate funding that they need.
Now, I'm a proud HBCU grad. I'm sure that I'm not the only one on the panel. And, it's critical to think about what HBCUs give to this country. I mean, we produce just so many amazing individuals who really are an asset to the entire nation. What can we do as a collective to make sure that we can support you, in addition to people who can show up in person at your rally? What would you expect other people across the country to be able to do to make sure the government gets the message and finally Maryland's HBCUs get the funding that they deserve?
Sure, I think it's programming like this that helps get the message out on the importance of what this stands for. This is not just good for the state of Maryland, but this is good for the nation because all eyes are on Maryland, on what we're doing and what will be the outcome of this lawsuit. This affects everybody. This is not just good for those kids that go to school, but this affects our economy. This affects our public safety, criminal justice reform, those that want jobs. We want to make sure that we have the best institution of higher education in the state of Maryland. We want to ensure that those kids that want to go to college can afford to go to college. We want to ensure that those kids that want to go to college have the best programming and the best athletic programs that they deserve. And it should not just be at our flagship institution in the University of Maryland.
So, Pastor Shannon, you're running for mayor of Baltimore. Morgan is right there down the street from you. What would you like to see happen right now in terms of this issue?
Well, let me start by saying I went to Virginia State.
So did I. I didn't know you were Virginia State alum.
Stop playing.
Yes,
okay.
girl.
So we're going to have to talk.
Absolutely.
Did you like the milk? It was a farming, agricultural, and the onion milk was something.
Onion.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway, so as an HBCU person, I do understand the significance of the colleges and what they provide. I get that. But a couple of things. One, the funding does not meet the needs of where the schools need to be moving, and I understand that too. But I think that we have to be sure, and I say we, as in all of us in Maryland, have to be sure that with this lawsuit and with the way it is moving, that it is actually moving in a benefit of the schools and the students, because what happens in Maryland is going to affect all the HBCUs. So if this thing goes awry of where we need it to, it could really have an adverse effect on all of the HBCUs. So I think all parties need to be careful and sure that they are coming to the table with the best needs of the people and the students, and not political agendas.
Well,
That's my only concern.
And I would agree.
And that's across the board.
And I would agree, but this has been going on now for a decade and a half.
It has.
All right.
It has.
So let me be clear on that. So when you talk about a decade and a half year old lawsuit, this has been tried and tested to ensure that the programming that they need, the duplication of services have been looked at, the amount of money that is being asked for meets the needs of the students and the institutions themselves. The plaintiffs have now come back and said, this has been going on for so long, we'll settle for $577 million. That's a far cry from the $1 billion to $2 billion that the state has come back and said that they deserve. We also know that 20 years ago to date, the same lawsuit happened in Mississippi. Mississippi settled for three institutions for $791 million. Now, we also know that, you've backtracked this a little bit, our predecessor, the former governor, Martin O'Malley, tried to settle this lawsuit for $60 million. Another slap in the face.
Wow.
So this governor, who's a Republican governor, said, listen, I'll do better than he did. I'll settle the lawsuit for $100 million. I'll give you folks $40 more million, and you should be happy with it. Listen, the programming, the duplication of services, all of those things, the court has come back and said that they need, that they deserve. The courts have said, looking at where we are, looking at inflation, looking at all the things necessary, this lawsuit should be settled to date, at least at $1 billion to $2 billion. The court system said that. This isn't a number that the plaintiffs or we came up with. The court said that. So looking at all of those things, we have now come up to say that there's something that needs to be done. Now is the time, because this has been going on for so long. And lastly, we will be putting in legislation this upcoming session from two people from Baltimore, Delegate Keith Haynes and Delegate Charles Sitdor, to say that we need to put in legislation that gets us closer to the $1 billion that the court has said that they deserve.
Yes.
So now the onus will be put on us to ensure that their lawsuit gets settled one way or the other. The purpose of the rally is to make sure that the nation hears our concerns.
That needs to be your approach, because if you say this lawsuit's been going on for 10 years, which I know it has,
15, yeah.
and O'Malley said, okay, well, I'll throw 60, and then Hogan said, okay, well, I'll throw 100, which is now at 200 is his latest offer. If you're not getting what you need, then you need to take it to the people.
Absolutely. Now, let me just make sure that we put this into context in case there are people who are just finding out about this for the first time. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Chairman. But it's my understanding that at the nexus, at the beginning of the suit, at the genesis of this, really was a situation where HBCUs in Maryland at one point were flourishing. And they were flourishing because they had some very specific and unique programs, majors, that attracted people from all over the state, attracted basically a diverse student population.
That's correct.
And so what happened was basically your programming strategy got gentrified, basically.
That's correct.
Those programs that you had put in place within our HBCUs ultimately got replicated at the major predominantly white institutions in Maryland. And because of that, those students who had gone to HBCUs exclusively to get that programming ended up going to these PWIs, which meant that you had less students, which meant that you had less income, and you were basically big-footed, okay? And this suit was all about correcting that wrong.
That's correct.
And for over a decade, 15 years now, you've been trying to be made right. You've been trying to have the situation be made right, only to be undercut time and time again. I wouldn't do Roland justice if I didn't ask you who else is joining you at these rallies. What organizations? Is the NAACP taking place in this? Urban League? Any other sort of major legacy organizations? Are they coming there to stand beside you when you have this rally?
And I want to backtrack. When you talk about the duplication of services, Coppin State used to be the leading force when it came to the School of Nursing. That school was taken out of Coppin and put into University of Maryland.
Wow.
So it goes to your point of the services that we once had has now been removed.
Right.
Roland has been a real good ally in helping us get to the point we are now. So a few weeks back, I was on a call with Roland and Delegate Charles Sidnor, where he made a phone call to the Divine Nine. Their president was on a call with all the other presidents around the country, and they all said, Delegate Barnes, we're coming to support you.
Good.
And they did their roll call, and they all said, we're supporting you 100%. The NAACP is behind us. The Masons are behind us. And the Links and all the other national organizations should be embarking on Annapolis on November the 13th at 1 p.m. That's going to happen. I know that 4 HBCUs in the state of Maryland are all gearing up. There has been buses reserved, and folks are looking to make their way down to Annapolis that day. So my goal, my hope, my prayer is that we have a very large turnout, that we send a strong message not only to the governor, but to those that are watching around the country, that the state of Maryland, the Legislative Black Caucus, will not stand for something that does not make any sense, that we want to do what's right and what's fair. And that's what this is all about. We don't want anything that we should not be getting. We don't want anything that we should not deserve. We just want to make sure that the children and the young people in the state of Maryland that do want to further their education, that do want a quality education, are able to receive that at one of our 4 HBCUs.
Absolutely.
Mr.
Well,
Barnes,
go right ahead.
I have a question. Congratulations on your work. It's very important work.
Yes, sir.
I have kind of a two-pronged question. One is, being that vital programs have been previously gentrified, as Avis mentioned, what is the plan of action to prevent that again once you get the funding that you deserve for that activity to occur again, that usurps your power? And the other thing is, what kind of alumni response are you getting to this crisis?
Right. So to go to your first question, so what will happen, the courts have said that the programs that the lawsuit now are the merits of the programming and the duplication of services. So if the lawsuit comes about in a way that we know it will, then the new programs and the things that our 4 HBCUs will have cannot be taken away from us in the future, that they will remain with those 4 HBCUs. The Alumni Association is doing their part, from my understanding, that they have been sending out letters and getting their folks involved to make sure that they will be in Annapolis on the 13th, as well as the Maryland House of Delegates have been starting to galvanize and work on committees to figure out what we can do from a legislative standpoint to ensure that not only does this funding comes about, but any other thing that we can do to strengthen our HBCUs.
Got you. And can you let our audience know one more time where and when they can join you?
Sure. That's November the 13th at 1 p.m. in front of the State House in Annapolis. I'm asking everyone that hears my voice to come out to be a part of this historical moment, to get involved, not only to just show up, but I need folks to call their legislators. I need folks to call the governor. I need folks to call everybody to let them know that this is unacceptable and that we want them, the governor, to support our efforts in funding our HBCU.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for joining us this evening, Chairman.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, it's the holiday season. This is when you think about spending time with family and friends. This is also when you count your blessings and support those less fortunate. This year, be a holiday hero and change someone's life forever. Right now, hundreds of thousands of Americans are sitting in jail without being convicted of a crime. Why? Because they lack the financial resources to pay their bail. Now think about it. If you are arrested for any minor offense, you will be taken directly to jail. If you don't have bail money, you will stay there until a court date is scheduled. That could be days, weeks, or even months. Simply put, America's bail system is broken for people of color. Freedom should be free. That's why the Ebony Foundation has partnered with the Bail Project and is sponsoring the Home by the Holiday campaign. The Bail Project has helped bail out thousands of people over the years, and with your help, they plan to get 1,000 people out of jail by New Year's Day. And that, of course, would be a great holiday gift for many families. A donation from you today can change someone's life tomorrow. Now that you know the people of color represent upwards of 90% of the jail population across the country. Now, without bail, nearly 90% of those charged with misdemeanors pled guilty. Now, however, with paid bail, less than 2% receive the jail sentence. Sometimes justice needs just us. To join the fight, you can donate $25, $50 or more to help the Ebony Foundation bring our brothers and sisters home by the holiday. To donate, go to homebytheholiday.com. That's homebytheholiday.com. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.